Great, thank you. And up next, we have Renee. Renee, if you'd go ahead and unmute yourself, please. Hi, Renee.
Hi, thank you. I have a question about salt. And if I eat a whole food plant-based diet, I don't add much salt, but I'm wondering, is it okay to add like a little bit of sauerkraut and maybe a tablespoon of miso? I mean, it's very minimum, but I'm just wondering how much is okay to add.
Great question, and love some miso. I would say, and I use miso and tamari or coconut aminos or something. That's what I use for salt in my recipes. I'm just finishing my book this week and get with all those recipes, and those are the main ingredients I use for salt. Here's what I would say. I go with the American Heart Association guidelines, and that's like, try to limit it to less than 1,500 milligrams a day. Again, I'm a dietitian, that doesn't count. So if you're doing if you're aware to that extent where you know that you're asking about a teaspoon of miso, then I think you're probably being perfectly spot on. Now, if you're having problems with blood pressure or you're sensitive, like a lot of women, mostly, but a lot of people, but mostly women, tend to experience kind of salt sensitivity, where there's like some bloating and fluid retention, especially around hormonal changes during the month, then you might want to limit it. But most people are just fine having up to 1,500. Really, the general recommendations are like 2,200 milligrams a day. But unless you're eating processed foods, lots of processed foods, and pouring on the sauces and stuff like that, or eating lots of bread contains a lot of, there's a lot of hidden salt in the diet, especially in sauces and the stuff I just mentioned. But if you're not doing that, because if you're even just adept enough to even ask about a quarter teaspoon of miso paste, whatever you just said, like you're already on top of it. I'm sure you're probably fine. So I would just make sure your blood pressure is fine and you're not sensitive to salt. And other than that, it should be fine.
Thank you, Juliana. Up next, we have Jose. Jose, if you'd go ahead and unmute yourself for Julieanna Hever.
Hi, Juliana. How guys? The question that I have is the following: based on white blood cell count and non-alcoholic fatty liver, it looks like I work in a couple of different clinics. I do IT support though, but a lot of people, oh yeah, that's normal. You don't fix your non-alcoholic fatty liver. That's something normal. I don't think it's normal, because I never had that issue before, and a lot of my friends they never had that issue. I mean, I'm slowly inclining to becoming a vegan, and my numbers are getting way better. But what is your output on that supposedly non-alcoholic fatty liver that pretty much they saying that 60% or 70% of the people had, and that nothing can fix it?
Oh, I've seen people get dramatic improvements with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease with the plant-based diet. Dramatic and fast. So it's very similar mechanisms. It has to do with the fat and the high fructose corn syrup and the fructose, all the processed foods and animal products are associated with that, with liver disease. And so best thing you could do is eat a whole food plant-based diet. Best thing, you're already seeing improvements. If you go all the way to whole food plant-based, and I mean whole food plant-based, be careful of all the processed foods and all of the the plant-based meats and cheeses and ice creams and cookies and cakes right now, because that's where I'm seeing people get into trouble. And again, you're going to see that with eating, you'll see that in your liver enzymes if you continue eating that stuff. But if you go towards vegetables, whole grains, legumes, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, herbs, and spices, you will improve those. You can improve it completely.
Great, thank you. And we have Ginger back. Ginger, go ahead and unmute yourself again, please.
Thank you. The discussion of salt brought to mind the possibility of being deficient in iodine, because there are so many salts on the market now that don't include a label saying they have iodine. And I'm just wondering if a whole lot of these companies, these producers, are just finding it less expensive to not put the iodine in. And I've tried to call a couple of places that either sell the salts without the iodine mentioned, or sauces and salad dressings. And a lot of times I can't find out whether they include iodine.
If it doesn't say, it's a very good question, Ginger. If it doesn't say iodine, it's not iodized. And that's why it's so weird. We're seeing, I consider iodine one of the notable nutrients. And you want to make sure you're getting the 150 micrograms that the average adult needs in a day. And the reason we're seeing I think one of the reasons we're seeing more goiters than we were seeing for a while is because people are doing, like you said, having these fancy salts. I can't speak on behalf of the manufacturers, but you can, as a consumer, make sure you're getting iodine. So if it's not from the salt, then you want to supplement with salt or use sea vegetables. And you could do like a sprinkle of sea vegetables, but be careful of those too, because you want to read the labels. And there's certain ones like hijiki that you want to avoid because of arsenic. And there's some that are really super high in iodine. So just read the labels really carefully. Nori is safe, Dulse is safe, or you could just take an iodine supplement. I take a multivitamin. I have my clients, most of my clients just do a multivitamin that contains B12D, like a 2000 IU dose of D, but I also have my clients test their vitamin D blood, so I know accordingly on how to supplement them. So B12D, K2, iodine, and zinc. And then an a plant-based microalgae, omega-3 EPA and DHA formula. In fact, there was a new study that came out this week supporting the need for EPA and DHA. So iodine is an issue, definitely needs to be monitored, and either use iodized salt specifically or supplement with iodine.